Calendar and availability settings may be managed by the therapist or provider or by practice managers and owners. If you are an owner or manager of a practice, you can edit the calendar settings by going to Settings, Staff, then selecting the provider's name and going to the Calendar tab. If you're the provider, you can go to your profile or just go to your calendar view and open the Settings section on the right to access them. Let's manage the settings by selecting Calendar Settings and walking through the options. If you are in a group practice and would like the other providers in your practice to see your free busy calendar availability, select Yes to this. This does not give other therapists the ability to view client names or meeting details. It only allows them to see if you are scheduled with a client session or at a meeting at a certain time. Here's an example of how your calendar would show up to other providers in your practice if you decided to share. Using this feature is helpful for therapists who might be sharing a treatment room. Next, let's set up your weekly availability. There are several purposes for setting up availability. It guides your eye to ensure you're scheduling clients at 8 p.m., for example, instead of 8 a.m. It communicates to your admin staff when you're typically available to see a client. And if you're a multi-location practice, it shows you which location you're working from that day. If you decide to allow clients to self-schedule appointments, it also limits them to scheduling only into your available slots that you've designated for self-scheduling. To set up your availability, Therapy Appointment asks you to start with a rough idea of your schedule that you'll be able to finesse to your liking. So let's walk down this screen. Here, you'll be able to indicate the amount of time you schedule between session start times. The default is the most typical of every hour. I have 60 minutes in between appointment start times. Don't worry, this gets even more customizable once we get to a rough availability built. Next, I want you to think about your usual and typical office hours and select or deselect the days that you're available to see clients. If you are a multi-location practice, you can choose which location you're assigned to. Again, this can be finessed later. And the next section is about general. If you would like to consider allowing clients to self-schedule with you, go ahead and set, and would like clients to be able to self-schedule. If you're a nope, that's never going to happen, go ahead and choose no. But if you think you'd like to allow it, go ahead and choose yes. Now, give a rough idea of the daily start and stop times. You don't need to get too specific here, because again, we're going to fine-tune the availability. Now, I'm given an outline of my available hours. I can grab these blocks and move them up and down, or I can grab this little handle and shrink or expand them. If I click into this block, it opens up an editing tool on the right, allowing me to make this section unique. Perhaps I run my appointments every 30 minutes instead of every 60 minutes on Monday mornings, so go ahead and select that. If you're available in person or via telehealth or both, in this case, I'm going to say I'm only available in person on Monday mornings. And finally, if you do eventually want to allow your clients to self-schedule, they can say self-schedule into this blocks of appointments, and you can leave that set to yes. You can go into each block and make similar decisions. Now let's assume this provider works a long day on Mondays and needs to add some evening slots to Mondays. Just click into the calendar where you want a new evening block to start, and then drag that block time to extend the time. In this example, I am not allowing clients to self-schedule into this time frame. I want to decide whose clients get to be in my private time slots. And I want to drag this to start a little bit earlier at 5:30. Now, I can get as granular as I want to here. For example, maybe I want my 5:30 to 6:30 slot to be an in-person slot and available to self-scheduling. So let me adjust that. I'm going to drag this to be a little shorter. Okay, so we'll go 5:30 to 6:30. And then I'm going to say it's only available in person, and I am going to allow a client to self-schedule into that time. And then I want to create a new time slot here that starts at 6:30 and goes to 8:30. And I am not allowing clients to self-schedule into that time, and I'm only available in person. Okay. Now let's go look at Friday. Maybe I have afternoon appointments on Friday that I don't want to have those anymore. So I'm going to click on that block and remove that slot. Okay. And maybe I want to start a little bit later in the day. And maybe I want to have a different location on Fridays. So I can just arrange things the way I want. And when I'm complete, I can select them. I want to edit this back here. Okay. Okay. So I can just say I am done. And now I can view my availability on the calendar. Now, let's consider that maybe you run an entirely different schedule for part of the year, such as a different schedule for the summer or for a semester. In that case, you can go into Edit Availability and you can use Add Exception. What this allows you to do is build a unique availability from different start dates. So maybe you run a different schedule for the summer or for a semester. So this allows you to do that and set your availability up different for that time. When you do this, you'll be invited to set up your availability just as I showed you in the previous section. Now you can come in and edit your availability at any time. Doing so will not affect the clients or meetings already scheduled for you. Additionally, you can schedule a client or meeting anywhere outside your availability if you want to for a one-off appointment you might need. Now let's go back into our calendar settings and keep going down the list. Now, if you want to integrate Therapy Appointment with a personal calendar, you have an option to do so via Google, iCal, and other external calendars. Here's an example. Just click in the section, review, and follow the directions, and you are going to have that connected to your Therapy Appointment calendar very easily and simply. Now, I do want to bring your attention to a few items if you choose to integrate a personal calendar. First, your admin team will not be able to view your personal calendar. And the second is Therapy Appointment does offer a two-way sync that only takes a second to update. However, when you view your Therapy Appointment calendar from an existing calendar, you will not be able to view patient names or meeting names. Here's an example of the view from a personal calendar. So I can only view the fact that I have an appointment or a meeting scheduled in Therapy Appointment. Let's go back into calendar settings and look at this Zoom integration. If your admin team has allowed, you can integrate your existing Zoom account to be the handler for telehealth in Therapy Appointment. Therapy Appointment just asks that you acknowledge that you ensure you have a BAA with Zoom before you're allowed to proceed, and then you'll be able to easily connect with your Zoom account. Now let's keep going down the calendar settings. Under session settings, if you're using Therapy Appointments autopilot feature, your device can sound a chime at the beginning or at the end of a session to remind you to start wrapping things up. Under appointment settings, you can set a limit to how many hours ahead of a scheduled appointment a client could self-cancel, if you're going to allow them to do so from the portal. You can also set a default number of days ahead of the session that the reminders will be sent out to client. Just click in here to edit this at any time. Lastly, observed holidays allows you to automatically block your availability for the holidays that you choose to observe. Now let's go back to your calendar and the side panel menu options to take a look at a few more settings. Here, you can decide what your calendar view starts at. I've selected 7 a.m., so that's where my calendar is starting here when I view it. Okay. Use this Show Cancellations button to view appointments that clients self-canceled online, you or admin staff canceled, or if the appointment was marked as a late cancel or no-show appointment. If you don't want to have this cluttering up your screen, you can deselect this and keep that from being a distraction on your calendar. Any personal calendars you have connected to Therapy Appointment will show up here on the menu, and I can deselect them in case I don't want to see them in my view at the moment. And below is a legend of process colors that Therapy Appointment uses to show the action taken on appointments on your schedule. Now, if you want to collapse this side menu, just click on it, and it now provides you a view of your schedule without the distractions. Thanks for watching. Reach out to support@therapyappointment.com if you have additional questions.